Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And this is the Cornwall Property Podcast. We're here to educate, inform, inspire you guys to hopefully get involved with property, ideally in the Cornwall property market, with where we know that there's a big issue with the housing crisis, and that's one of the main reasons we're here today. Is we want to try and encourage and educate you guys on how you could get involved with property and to help bring some property back to the market. There's over 21,000 people, 21,500 people, in fact, that are on the emergency waiting housing list that needing accommodation, which is very frightening indeed. So we want to just try to help bridge that gap of trying to bring some more property to the market for these people to move into and make their homes. So, James, how can people get in touch with us?
They can get in contact with us by going to our website, cornwallpropertypodcast.com. Scroll down on the first page and you'll see a little insert area where you can let us know, your thoughts and questions. Alternatively, as many of you do, go to our Facebook page, Cornwall Property Podcast, and reach out that way. But we are here waiting to answer and hopefully inspire you.
Fantastic. So this is our Ask Dan and James episode, where you guys get in touch with us and ask your questions, and we just try and help steer you in the right direction and give you a little bit more information. So, James, what is our first question of today?
Right, so the first question is from lovely Jay in Bodmin, who asked the following. I know I need to improve the energy performance of my rental property, but my concerns are that it is all electric. Yes, ongoing problem there. I know your pain there, Jay. Have I got any chance of achieving a C rating on the EPC if this is the case, as I understand that it's much harder without gas? Good question, actually.
Yeah, nice one, Jay. Thanks for getting in touch, Jay. And it is a common predicament, particularly down here in the beautiful Cornwall, where we have got quite a lot of villages and areas that actually don't have gas, believe it or not. So the answer is yes, there is an opportunity. For example, James and I have just developed a Grade 2 listed building in the centre of Truro, which we haven't used gas for. We're trying to future-proof the property, and we've managed to achieve a B rating and a C rating. Our Mevergizy development, if you look back onto previous podcasts, we did a little tour around there, and we actually achieved on the 5 apartments in Mevergizy, we achieved between C's and B's on all of those 5 properties. The B's are generally where you've got a property. It's kind of like sandwiched between 2 properties, because you don't lose as much heat above because there's another property, and you don't lose as much heat below because there's another property. So the Bs are generally like the central, where you're sandwiched, the property is sandwiched between others. So when you're looking at C ratings, we managed to achieve C ratings here. It is very doable. I suppose it just matters. The main thing is just working out how far do you need to go. So it's knowing where you are now and where you've got to get to. My advice, personally, is to get an energy assessor around there, an EPC assessor around there, ASAP, just to say, look, can you give me a figure on where I'm at now? Because obviously, if your property is let, you'll already have an EPC. So my little tip there is to save the hassle and the worry, or maybe shopping around for an energy assessor. If you go online to the EPC register, you can access your EPC certificate. You can access any EPC certificate for that matter, but you access yours. If you scroll down to the bottom of that document, you can actually see who the assessor was that did your energy assessment at the time. If you go in touch with that energy assessor, obviously they should hopefully have a record of the property. They could go, look, brilliant, this was the EPC number. You did this EPC for us back here. Can you just have a little look at your numbers and just work out, based on what you've already assessed, what would I need to do, or how could I most efficiently get to a C rating? Now, obviously, the EPC certificate there has advisories on it anyway, so you have some common advisories, but the idea is that you want to try and incentivize. Obviously, I recommend it's worth every penny. Pay for their time and their guidance, and essentially their consultancy to you. But what we did, Jay, is we had night storage heaters in the properties that we were developing, and obviously traditionally night storage heaters aren't a very efficient way of working with heating, because they obviously they suck up and they kind of store the energy and the heat at the cheaper time on the cheaper tariff, and then they release it during the needed time in essence. But they weren't doing that really. They weren't. They were heating at silly times, and they weren't very efficient. So my recommendation is to get an updated EPC system. What we are quite big advocates for. They're not cheap, but are the Glendimplex quantum storage heaters. Again, they're the most economically friendly storage heaters you can get on the market, and they make massive impacts on your EPCs and your SAP assessments, your standard assessment procedure, if you've got a new build. So yeah, there's particular types. Basically, yes, you can do it. Simple ways: increase the insulation in your loft. If you can, increase the insulation in floors or external walls. Massive helps. Obviously, my first recommendation is simply get in touch with your energy assessor, look at what you've already got in place, what you're already achieving, and then just work with your assessor in trying to generally manipulate that document. What do I need to do to get here? And they can help guide you. But it is definitely doable, Jay, definitely possible. Just you just need to talk to the experts.
Absolutely, I can agree more, Dan. And just do that research. And I know some people have been right on the border. They just need 1 or 2 more points for getting a B or C, whatever it is. But getting that energy assessor around, you might just find if you replace all the LED or the current lights with LEDs, you get those 2 points, and you can do that from making a trip to your local supermarket. Pretty easy.
I didn't realise, James, until our recent development, that actually, depending on when your double glazing was installed, if you've got recently in the last kind of 5 years double glazing upgrades, then it's actually they are actually better thermally efficient, more thermally efficient, should I say, than older double glazing. So you might think, I've got double glazing. Well, double glazing is double glazing. Well, no, it's not.
It's
actually
changed.
If you've got more recent windows installed, then you actually get a better performance, and that could be the difference of a couple of points. And those couple of points, as you rightly said, it could be the difference of a boundary, really, of a C rating or a B or a D or a C. So
absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully that helps, Jay. Obviously, if there's any other questions, please do get in touch. We have a fantastic energy assessor that we use, and we can happily recommend if you need one. So yeah, thank you very much for your question. So James, I've got one for you, and it is from lovely Emma in Truro. And Emma has asked, I know that people talk about Mundic in Cornwall, but is it really something that I should be concerned about when investing down here, or is it just a little bit OTT, over the top? So yeah, Mondic, I suppose. What is Mondic? And in case of, is it really an issue, James?
Well, that's a very, very good question there, and it's very, very popular down here in Cornwall. And let's just rewind the tape a little bit and just kind of do a little mini history lesson, if you like. So, what is Mundic? Mundic is a Cornish word meaning mine waste. It consists of iron containing sulphur, known as pyrite, and often referred to as fool's gold. Before 1952, concrete was made locally on site from local materials, and basically this was cheaper and more convenient than transporting it to long distances. So there's a bit of history on exactly what Mundic is. Cheap aggregate, exactly that. But what later found out as technology enabled more testing on things like this, well, basically houses were starting to fall down, which is probably not a good thing when people are living in them. So they found that the integrity of this concrete aggregate was actually weakening over time, and even more so when that aggregate gets wet. So basically, if you're a lender, you certainly don't want to be lending on something that may fall down in a few years' time. So obviously nothing in modern age now gets made of that. However, as we know in Cornwall, there are lots of old properties that were made around that time. And unfortunately, some of those properties are unmortgageable. And that is why when you go on to sort of Rightmove and things like that, you'll see cash buyers only. That is solely because, you're not going to be able to get a mortgage on it. And even worse, if you don't do your homework, and as we say, always use professionals to get the advice that you need. People have bought properties and, that they haven't known that it's got Mundic, and it has got Mundic. And then suddenly they're in hot water, especially if they buy it cash and, they're trying to then get that money out on a mortgage, and they can't get a mortgage. And the thing is, once you have found out it's got Mondic, you have to declare it, when selling or anything like that. So yes, in answer to your question there, I would definitely take it very, very seriously. And, you may have buckets of cash. Good for you if you do that. But, at some point you may want to pass that on. If you can't sell something, then it obviously devalues it. So always do your homework and be wary that it is more common down here as opposed to getting it somewhere in, say, North Wales, for example.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean it's a no, does it?
No,
it depends
no.
on what part of the property has got Mundic. Well, we're currently purchasing a property in central Truro, and bought a small section of that property has Mundic.
Has it?
Oh, have I not told you?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
God.
No. So we had a Mundic test carried out just to kind of cover back size, and it turned out that part of the rear extension of this property has Mundic. Just like literally the top floor of this extension. It's a 2-story extension of the rear of an older property, and the top floor was built with Mundic. So all we've got to do is we've got to take down that Mundic section, and we'll rebuild it with timber. timber frame. So again, it's very, very doable. But what you need to do is obviously get your Mundic surveys done. That's not cheap in itself. Get the Mundic surveys done, and then once you've done that, if you've got Mondic, you obviously just need to reevaluate. What we did on this occasion, we worked out the costs, how much this work would cost.
Yep.
We went back to the owner of the property, the vendor, and we said, well, look, this is what we found. This is how much it's going to cost. Can you meet us? Can we take this off the asking price? It ended up that we actually went halves with them, didn't we? We said, look, okay, this is where we're at. We know we're taking the property on as it is. But they've said, well, look, we'll drop the price for you to compensate for this finding and this extra work, which none of us were able to foresee. So, yeah, it's definitely an option, and it's a way you could potentially negotiate. And it doesn't mean it's dead in the water. You've just got to work. There's always a solution. I think that's the thing to look at here, Emma, is there's always a solution. Just find out what the problem is, and you can then work out that solution.
Absolutely. And I would say also, be cautious in Cornwall, because you can get sort of like a more complicated scenario, thus being you've got a beautiful Cornish cottage from the 1800s, which completely says no to Mundics. It's not in the time frame of when Mundic was about, in that sort of 10 to 15 year period. However, that house may have had an extension put on it in that period around that sort of 1952, and therefore the property in the lender's eyes is saying, well, it's got Mundic. Well, no, it hasn't actually. It's just the rear extension wall or something like that. So yes, definitely always do your homework on it. And I would say 9 times out of 10, if lenders see that you're buying a property in Cornwall, and they've done it on my own personal house, they ask for a Mondic report. And there are a number of good companies out here in Cornwall, obviously, that will do that for you.
And again, if you want to know who we recommend, then just get in touch.
Absolutely.
Guys, that is it for episode 30. Thank you ever so much for the questions, Jay and Emma. If you've got any further questions, you can get in touch with us
by going to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, or as many of you do, as I always say, go onto Facebook. Give us a like if you can. Always appreciate that, and let us know your feedback, questions that you've got, because we love property and we are here to help.
And we're also on Instagram too now, so get in touch there too. We're getting us showing off now. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. We will be back next week for episode 31, which is another market update. And until then, just goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Take care, guys.